I think we learnt today exactly why Harris has avoided doing any interviews with potentially, I was going to say ropey, not ropey. What's the word I'm looking for
Robust.
here? Robust. That's a much better word. A potentially robust interview, because she just went to water. Basically, Bret Baier did what we were waiting for, we've all been waiting for a long time with Kamala Harris, which was simply ask her, you know, how can you justify the fact that you've been vice president for 3.5 years and you're now claiming that your presidency would completely change everything? Why are you talking about Donald Trump all the time? All the things you and I have been asking. And he put these questions to her, and lo and behold, she could not answer them. Let's go to that first point and the state of the US right now. How does Kamala Harris say that things would change under her, even though she's already vice president?
They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam Vice
You and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
Bret Baier doesn't know, and nor do I. I mean, she was just asked, how's it going to change? Oh, Donald Trump's been running for a long time. What does it matter? Donald Trump hasn't been in charge for the last 4 years, has he? You have Ms. Harris and, of course, Mr. Biden. And speaking of Mr. Biden, she was asked, did at any point you have an issue or notice anything going wrong with Joe Biden's cognitive ability? Well, once again, it's Donald Trump somehow.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room, and he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions.
You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump.
Come on, pull the other one, trying to pretend that she never noticed anything wrong with Biden. Oh, you know, he has the ability and the experience. Yeah, that's why you're the presidential candidate for the Democrats and not him. Is that how this works? So, of course, towards the end of the interview, Bret Baier, and by the way, this whole time, Kamala's handlers are in the background waving their arms around, basically saying, end this thing now. They can see exactly how bad it's going. So at the end of the interview, Bret Baier says to her, well, you've talked about Donald Trump a lot. I hope you got everything you wanted to say across, and, well, it didn't get any better.
I hope you got to say what you wanted to say about Donald Trump. There are a lot of things
There's more to say. I have much more to say,
there are a lot of things that people want to learn about you and your policies, and that's why I
invite everyone to go to kamalaharris.com, and you will see that I have 80 pages of policies that are quite comprehensive and should be accessible to anyone who would like to read them. And it includes what I intend to do about affordable housing, what I intend to do about small businesses, what I do
and that's why we invited you here,
our economy,
to see where you were in 2019 and where you are now.
America's military and ensure we have the most lethal and best fighting force in the world.
Madam Vice President, and they're giving me a hard rap
Well,
here.
I thank you for the time.
I thank you for the time.
It's good to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Go to kamalaharris.com. I mean, she couldn't even she forgot there was a comma at the end of it, for goodness sake. So instead of sitting down in an interview and explaining her policies, she says at the end of the interview, if you want to know what I think, go to my website. There's 80 policies on there for you to peruse at any time, because, of course, she can't actually explain them in an interview because she doesn't damn well believe any of them. Here is every time she didn't talk about her own policies and instead talked about Donald Trump.
Donald Trump, 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 and Donald Trump, Donald Trump,
President Biden at a fundraiser debate stage.
Let's go back to Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump.
He's living rent-free in that head, isn't he? Mr Trump himself replied on X today. He said, "Great job by Bret Baier in his interview with Lion Kamala Harris. She has a massive and irredeemable case of Trump derangement syndrome. So bad, in fact, that she is barely able to talk about any subject other than the man who had the best economy ever, the strongest border in history, and who has just got the unanimous endorsement of the US Border Patrol. Me, he is one for humility, isn't he? Their endorsement was a tremendous honour. They said that Comrade Kamala did a terrible job, the absolute worst in memory, and can't be allowed to do it again. She's also the worst vice president in history, but hopefully will soon be gone." Again, congratulations to Bret Baier on a tough but very fair interview, one that clearly showed how totally incompetent Kamala is. For the good of our nation, her inferior cognitive ability must be tested at once. And it seemed that the only thing she really wanted to talk about was Donald Trump, because she can't articulate her own policies. And her entire platform seems to be vote for me because I'm not the other guy. Now, that's not enough to get you over the line.
Well, it was last time.
Well, perhaps so, but it's slightly different this time round. And we've seen the polling in the swing states, which is now moving back in Trump's favour. If she wants to turn the dial, going around telling people who are currently favouring Trump that they should vote for her because she's not Donald Trump, I suspect ain't going to do the job.
And you watch Bret, this entire interview, it went for roughly just over half an hour, trying to draw her out on policy questions. And it simply wasn't working. Every single time she would circle back to Donald Trump, back to Donald Trump. That's all she wanted to talk about there. And even when he pointed it out to her in that last clip that you saw, saying, "You realise you've just talked about Donald Trump this whole time. I was hoping to learn more about you." And she says, "I've got 80 pages of policy, 80 pages of policy, and you didn't talk about any of that in a half-hour interview, lady." And let's never forget, 12 of the last 16 years, the Democrats have been in power. So the fact that all she can say in reply to every single policy question is bringing it back to Donald Trump just goes to speak to her depth of knowledge and how passionate she actually is about affecting any change, or how awesome she genuinely thinks her policies are, as anyone running for this job should be able to shake them awake at 3 a.m. in the morning, and they're ready to fight for their policies and give good, comprehensive explanation as to why that's what they're going to do on any particular topic. Not this woman. She's a lost cause.
The problem she's got is she is the incumbent who does not want to run on her own record. So all she's got left is, I'm not Donald Trump. And that'll play to a certain group of people. But
she's already got those people.
Exactly.
In an interview like that, in an interview like that, you need to be appealing to people who are not necessarily going to come out and vote right now, and get them to come out and vote for you. And telling people that you are not Donald Trump ain't going to do anything, because the people who want to get rid of Trump or don't want him back are already going to come and vote for you. Like, you're appealing to the wrong audience.
It's a case of know your audience. You're talking to Fox this time, OK? As Caleb said, they're our cousin in the United States of America, so more of a conservative watcher base. And yet all you did was slam Donald Trump, even while knowing most of the people watching probably lean more in his direction than yours, and yet just seemed completely clueless. You would have thought her team would have briefed her better.
So help me understand this, because we've just watched that. You've watched it at home. It's pretty obvious that interview was an absolute train wreck, but not everybody thought so. Lucy Turnbull, wife of Malcolm, tweeted this: "Why has Kamala Harris been so wary of tough media interviews? She more than held her own on Fox News. You see the human warrior and advocate within her so clearly and authentically."
Grief.
Was Lucy Turnbull watching a different interview?
She was.
What on earth is that? That is peak Trump derangement syndrome right there, where you live in a different universe. Clearly.
It's extraordinary. I don't know. I want whatever she's on, whatever she takes to the brekkie in the morning. Sign me up for it, because I rather like that world. But going back to the point of talking to your audience, I mean, Trump himself has already said he's going to give her a MAGA hat because she's copied all his policies. She could have just sat there and recited all of the Trump policies that she's stolen in the last few months and said, yeah, I'm going to get rid of taxes on tips and I'm going to build the border wall. She could have appealed to the audience so easily because she's stolen all of those policies. And she couldn't even do that because she doesn't believe it. And it's so hard to be convincing in a situation like that if you don't genuinely believe what you're putting down on paper. So she can't actually say it because she's got no conviction behind what she's saying.
The other problem there is, and let's call that a hostile interview, OK? Fox is not particularly friendly to the Democrats.
Brett wasn't hostile, though. He just asked the questions we've been waiting to hear her ask for a very long time.
It's hostile by virtue of the fact that it was an honest, straightforward interview as opposed to all the other ones she's done. And when you watch even some of the clips we just showed tonight, but if you watch the whole thing, you can literally see the cogs turning in her mind as the question is being asked. It's almost a look of panic. And you start to think, if this woman becomes the leader of the free world, how is she going to deal with, forget Fox News, Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, the Ayatollah of Iran?
Oh, God forbid.
And the other phrase she repeated continuously, and a lot of politicians do this, and as soon as they say this, you know they're stalling for time. Let me be clear.
And to proceed to not be clear at all.
And then Trump. So that was kind of the debating strategy.
That's it in a nutshell. That's a great synopsis.
Oh, the leader of the free world could be this woman. We are all in a lot of trouble if this is the person representing us to the axis of evil.